And we're live. Good morning, everyone. This is the one and only V, the Gorilla Economist, with my main man, El Cuco himself, the producer extraordinaire, CJ, and we're giving you the truth, the news, the views, and all the important stuff that's important to you and all the other crap that's going on in the world. We comment on it every single day. Well, just about every time we can get on the show, Siege. It's been brutal.
That's right.
Oh, man. Anyway, folks, check us out, roguenews.com. Follow us on Twitter at Real Rogue News. And Rogue News on every single podcasting app new to humanity. We're there everywhere you want us to be, plus a bag of chips. And we got Reefy's 00. He just hooked us up with a super chat. Thank you for that, my man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice.
Also, guys, yeah, that's definitely awesome. Thank you. It's the way you support the peoples. And also check out the front line. Be a member of the Gorilla Squad, either $7 or $10 a month, whatever you want to do. And there's a lot of it's pretty funny when that Soleimani thing came out. I really went in detail on the Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how it played out, Siege?
Just like you said, V.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. So a lot of things going on, my man. A lot of things going on. Siege, where do we begin, bro?
Yeah, well, I'd like to take just a moment, and I'm sure listeners won't mind. And today, for my family, we are memorializing my nephew, Christian Brocious, who unfortunately lost his life a year to date ago. And just want to take a moment and talk about. I distinctively remember our last conversation that we had in regards to him. And Christian was enrolled in school, was a very hard worker. And one night my brother had us over and we had nice dinner and just kind of hanging out and all that kind of great stuff. And why this is, I think, important in terms of what we do, V, and the conversation that we had is that, as many times that we talk about, future generations, whether it's the millennials and all those things that are occurring, there is a portion of the younger society growing up, and including my nephew, that were very in tune to what's happening, and in regard whether you're taking a look at the disparity between wealth of what's occurring, in our country, and it didn't happen overnight, but I continuously see that, and he was very awake by that in terms of the jobs that he was working. He worked several jobs going to school, and he'd realized that in terms of what was happening, he understood that it was really poor management of the dollar and poor management of the economy that was leading to, higher inflation, higher, energy prices, all those things that make it, very challenging and struggling for the future generations. It's really no bearing a direct result on them. It's more just the mismanagement of creating so much, fake wealth that's out there in terms of printing money and, escalating the debt. So I think in part, as we grow through this cycle and we're taking a look at, what's going to transpire and what's going to happen, I think that we owe it to future generations to push that reset button and to understand that, these people that are speaking about, not necessarily so much of the social justice programs, but more of what's been created. When you're having, companies like, Amazon, who are, raking in, billions of dollars of sales, but yet they pay zero in taxes, and they get, and one could argue and say, well, yeah, but they create so many jobs and everything else like that, but they're still getting, broker deals for land and everything else that they're doing. So when people think of that disparity of wealth and income, think of those Jeff Bezos who, billions of dollars, but yet it's on the taxpayer's dime, the taxpayer dollars. And there's numerous examples that we could go over. We can talk about Apple and how these companies, how they have just really the merger between our government and the corporations. And I think in tune, there's a good portion of the concern. I hate to paint with such a broad brush, but I think sometimes people overlook that fact. And, when people are talking about, hey, I need a higher wage to make my ends meet. And they don't see those things. That it's because of the mismanagement of the dollar that this has occurred. It's no bearing that they're not willing to go out there and work and make a hustle. And what I'm concerned about, V, is I only have a few examples to state, but what's happening and what I'm seeing, and it's kind of concerning, is now we're seeing, corporations, and what they're doing is that they're they're luring, these younger workers in and giving them higher responsibilities, where typically in the past the compensation and pay came with that, but not anymore. They're putting these kids in management positions and giving them $35,000 a year, where in the past they'd be paying the same position $40,000 or $50,000 a year. Now, I totally get that it's a matter of supply and demand, for those positions. But I think because we've created that scenario that's occurring, they're forcing people into these positions unprepared. And to a kid graduating from college who can't find a job or is still there searching, $35,000 could potentially be a lot of money for them, especially when they're trying to pay bills and, keep a roof over their head and everything like that. So why I speak to that is because my nephew Christian was very in tune into, cryptocurrencies, very in tune to, hey, you know what, if I give me $5,000-$10,000 and let me go invest and trade and do some things in the cryptocurrencies, he understood how disruptive cryptocurrencies could be to our economy. And that's something that I think, in terms of, seizing control from the top 1%, where we've seen the last several years where the top 1% has just accumulated all this wealth, and it's at the expense of the middle class. I think that's important for us to understand that that's the true road to freedom. That's the true road to liberty, is not through the government. It's through taking back control of our monetary programs and our monetary policies. And that's what my nephew understood. So, why I say that's important is because I think that in terms of our youth and reaching out, is that, we just have to win back. We have to win back the conversations and talk to them about these things. And there's not going to be any solution that's going to be done through being a Democrat or being a Republican. There's no solution there. Okay. Be pro-America, but do not be pro-government. There's no resolution that's going to come from the government that's really going to solve anything that we do. And, again, for my sister, Alma, who, lost a son, I think that's the worst thing that, you can kind of think of, V, as the loss of a child, something that you don't. So,
yeah, man, it's always, parents should never bury their children. And when you have somebody who is a bright flame, a bright light like your nephew, and to see him, gone, the flower, the prime of his life, it's not only sobering, but it's also a clarion call. The life is precious. Life is beautiful. And life is something that should be embraced and lived to the fullest. So prayers go out to you, brother, your family, your nephew's parents. I can't even imagine. Imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you for that, V. And you hit upon an important point, is that, life is very precious. And, we hear it constantly between things that are occurring with our youth in regards to the increase in depression and suicide and those things. And, I don't want to take, don't understand, my nephew was killed in a car crash. He did not, do anything like that. But I think in terms of what's happening in society, is that, we need to do some more work, some better work, to try to help understand those things. So just want to take a moment and, rest in peace, Christian. You're truly missed. And we're going to do some things later on today as a family to continue this. So thank you for allowing me to do this, V.
Absolutely, man. It's our honor and it's our pleasure, man. A great kid. Rest in power, my man. Rest in power. You will see him again. He's just slipped from this side of eternity to the next. He's left this dimension, and his spirit, his soul, his essence, who he is as a real person, his consciousness lives on. And you and your family will see him again on the other side. There's no doubt about that, brother. No doubt about that.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, lots of things going on, my man. Lots of things going on. The Iran situation is dying down, and people want to know what's next, what's going to happen. You got the impeachment thing that's going to happen. Siege, what does that title say?
Dow 29K, V.
Bum, bum, bum.
You predicted it at least 3 or 4 years ago. You said Dow 29K. You can go back. It's documented. We never did get the t-shirts made. We
never got the t-shirts, man. I never made out the Dow hashtag Dow 29K. Oh man, I said get the t-shirts, folks, and it's here. Siege, I want to gloat a little bit, Siege.
Go ahead. You should. You should absolutely.
Siege, when I said this, how many people in alt media were out there running around like Chicken Littles with their heads cut off, screaming about the Dow's going to drop to 5,000 points? It's the end of the world. All this other stuff. I mean, that's all you heard, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, who was out there?
You did, and again, in terms of understanding, you were way ahead of the curve in terms of stating that, hey, look, you know what, they're gonna continue to print money, they're gonna prop up the stock market, they're gonna continue, and I think you even said that's where they're gonna hide the inflation is in the stock market.
Yep, and boom, we're here. Dow 29,000. All right, that's it. Broadcast's over, folks. Have a good day.
Go celebrate, right?
Go celebrate. And I think, see, we didn't get the box champagne, bro, to start, popping open the box champagne live on air.
I don't know, V. I know you're not a heavy drinker, but I don't think they make box champagne. It's box wine.
I don't think so either. Why don't they? Why don't they make box champagne?
We could definitely get some champagne to celebrate. We'll do it for Monday. How's that?
We'll do it for Monday. The Dow 29,000, man. Here we go. Back in 2014 or 15, I think it was. I started screaming off the top of my lungs, Dow 29K, heading there, bitches. And here we are. Love it. Anyway, with that being said, bro, Siege, where do you want to begin, man? Where do you want to begin?
Well, I think it's important, to understand, because a lot of people are talking about the dynamics of what's occurring, and and V, you've stated this numerous times to understand that for the most part, every war, every escalation is more of a banker's type mentality of who profitizes off of our wars and off of the things that we're doing, and I think in terms of looking at it from an angle that just the nuclear aspirations of Iran is just one facet, is just one layer of the continued escalation, with them. And most Americans who get their news from their televisions, from CNN, from Fox, from all those, you can probably just go ahead and assume that half of the news that you're getting is either wrong or not complete. And it's probably even more than that, V, right? It's probably upwards of 75% because, the corporate news stations are more aligned with the corporations and the information that they feed you and where it comes from. So in terms of understanding that, what's at play here is that I think we could be seeing for the first time the escalation where the United States military is actually being leveraged to preserve the petrodollar and preserve the American way of life in terms of the dollar and keeping it as a reserve currency. There's known information in regards to the Iranians and the contracts that they're building and getting away from the dollar mechanism, getting away from the SWIFT system, getting out of the central banks of the U.S. controlled central banks of what they want to achieve. And I think that's it for the most part is really, and Americans will have to decide, we'll have to decide that, do we want our federal government to leverage our military and put our brave women and men who serve our country to preserve the dollar. And in my opinion, the corruption that comes with it, the greed, everything that's occurring. And I think that for the most part, that's, it's a multi-angled thing that's going on right now. It's just not one dimensional. And they'll plug the fear. They'll use the news to plug the fear that, oh yeah, they planned attacks against the embassy and they planned this attacks. But think about it, people. How long has our government used fear leveraging us? How long has the government used fear to manage us? And they do that the majority of the time, V.
Fear is a powerful motivator, my man. Fear is a powerful, powerful motivator. There's no doubt about it. It's that coupled with the fact that people are intellectually lazy. Very few people. I mean, think about it, folks. Look at your circle of friends. Look at your family members. Look at those that are around you in your sphere of influence. right? How many of them actually put the type of research into things and look up things and listen to and make the effort to find podcasts and alternative means of information from a varied background and varied sources so that you can discern and be cynical and find out exactly what it is that the world, what's going on in the world. You put a lot of effort into it. And that is often the case where you are the most informed one in the room. That's why you go to family get-togethers, you're like the odd one out, and people are uncomfortable. Some people are uncomfortable around you. Why? Because you take effort and you take work in order to understand what is going on. And folks, this is what I want to tell people is this. It takes work to be you. And this new year, I want to thank all of you. And CJ and I want to thank all of you, the audience members, right? Because it takes work to be you. It takes work to know what you know, to deal with the day in and day out, to deal with family members who think you're crazy, to deal with coworkers who just don't get it, friends who think that you're just like from outer space. It takes work to know the truth, to stay boldly gripped onto the truth like a bulldog, and then adjusting your lifestyle, what you're doing in terms of your wealth, of trying to preserve it, of your station, trying to move up, your income, your lifestyle, your family, the things that you're doing for you and your kids. That takes a great deal of effort than somebody who just goes to work every single day doing the 9 to 5, not given over to the details, and it's like, you can't live in freedom and then be ignorant. Ignorance is a choice. And we are living in where people are literally, CJ, living off of sound bites, my man. Sound bites.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
No, I completely agree. And speaking about the new year, Catherine Austin Fitts put out a tweet. Gosh, this was a few weeks ago, and she said, in heading into 2020, the number one asset that you can gain is your own individual health, and spending time to focusing on knowing where your food comes from. A perfect example, and how many times has our food supply just been tainted, and so we have to focus on that first. We have to focus on our health, our family health, dedicated to community, and why that's important is because I at one point, I think I gave up on trying to reach people, like trying to get people to understand. And every once in a while, I'll have someone that'll mention that, hey, thank you, because you really you really made me look at things in different perspectives and different things. And now I see some of these things. So we can still win. We can still win the narrative. We can still win it really truly is an information war that's occurring because we've been conditioned to accept what we hear on the news. We've been so conditioned to accept what we hear because we've been indoctrinated to that. That's all we have known is all our lives, that go to the doctor, take your medication, and I'm not sure where we lost that path be, but when you take a look at all this information, whether it's the decreasing life expectancy in the United States, we have the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and we have a decreasing life expectancy in the United States. And don't tell me that it's because of the opioids. That's one portion of it, but who approved those opioid drugs? Who approved? We have cannabis that's still a Schedule 1 and illegal, but most of these prescription medications that come out create more harm than good. In fact, more people die from prescription drugs than they do anything else. Why? Because it's a system. It's a system that's been created. And it's upon greed. And that's, we have to focus on that. We truly do. And now there's new studies that are coming out, some of these kids that start taking some of these medications like ADHD is all, well, not at all. What's the deficit disorder? The official name of it.
ADD.
There we go. So they're proving now that some of these medications, because again, when these drugs get approved, there is a lot of clinical studies and so forth, but in terms of the long-term effects, the long-term impact, and it's been shown that when kids begin these medications at even a young age, that builds up a chemical dependency within their brains and leads to further dependency in life, whether it's alcohol or even higher grade substance abuse. So we've got to turn that clock back and take a look at, natural health care. And if we do those things, I think that we can make a little bit of progress as we go through this transition period that we're going to be facing.
Yeah, absolutely correct, man. It is a massive transitionary period. And a lot of things are happening, especially like you look at the central banks, man. You look at over here. See, in Europe, while we're doing the repo over here, the repo dance every night, the Fed dumping 50 billion here, 90 billion there, 80 billion here, 100 billion there, and then you're wondering why. Isn't this funny, CJ? The Dow's at 29,000. And it's going to go to 30. It's going to go to 35. It could go to 40,000. But the fact is, and I said this so many times, the Dow going as sky high as it is, it will be a monolith, an absolute tower of Sauron that casts an immense shadow on a dilapidated, broken, and half-functioning economy. And the reason for that is this, folks. Think about it. Everybody is waving their flag. Everybody's out there just celebrating Dow 29K, and CJ and I don't have the boxed champagne to crack open. But the fact remains, the repo situation is not letting up, and it's not going to let up. Okay, I don't see an end of it in sight. And I think that some of the tightening that or some of the stimulus that you're seeing with the repo market will continue into 2020. But it's going to go into 2020 with something very new. And that something very new, folks, is what I've been calling about, and it's been saying since 2015 as well. We're going to enter a period of negative interest rates. And CJ, I remember so vividly that the arguments from one camp of the economic contrarians to the other camp of the economic contrarians, they would battle it out. Is it inflation? Is it deflation? Is it inflation? Is it deflation? You'd have the deflation guys on one end, you have the inflation guys on the other end, and they would duke it out to the bitter end to find out who's right. And I would come up there and say, guys, you're both right. They're like, what? What are you talking about? We're going to enter, and I think in 5 years' time, in 4 to 5 years' time, we will enter a stage called deflation. I'm sorry, stagflation, where you're going to have the wonderful benefits of both, CJ. We're going to have hyperinflation of currency. We're going to have hyperinflation of goods. We're going to have hyperinflation of services. And then we're going to have deflation. Deflation of jobs. Deflation of actual physical economy, like manufacturing. Deflation of purchasing power. Deflation of wages. Deflation of employment. It is literally the worst of both worlds. And how are we going to get there? Well, you have Dow 29,000. They're probably going to go to Dow 40,000 from here on out. And yet, along the way, we're having the repo market stimulus siege. Every night, 50 billion, 100 billion, I mean, unceasingly. And on top of that, the new thing that's going to be thrown into the mix is negative interest rates. You better believe. Remember the mission. People say, V, how did you know back in 2015 when the market was only 15,000 points, right? It was, I think, it was like 15,000. It was
like 15, right? Yep, right in there, leveraging around there.
How do you know? I mean, think about it. 15,000, and here's this crazy guy from New York saying we're going to 29,000. When everybody and their grandmother is showing out, it's going to crash tomorrow.
V, would it hurt your feelings if I told you even I was a skeptic for a minute?
No, it wouldn't hurt. I sounded crazy. I sounded insane. Right? And then you have people out there going on all these alt media shows. I tell you right now, it's going to go. The market's going to crash on October 20th. 2015, it's going to go to 5,000. I need you to get into gold. I need you to buy all the silver in the world, and I need you to store up on cat food and head to your bunker. And that's what they would tell you. And this crazy guy from New York. Why is he crazy? Because he's been there, he's done that, he's got the T-shirt. He's actually worked in these industries that these curmudgeons seem to comment on. And then he gets out there and says, "Hey, it's 29,000. Let not your heart be troubled." All my at that point, every economic model I had, that's when I stopped saying, "Holy shit, man! This is a 12 sigma event. We're approaching another Hindenburg window when it comes to the market. When this usually happens, CJ, the market's going to tank." Dude, I took all my charting and all my analysis and data that I had built up over the years with the traditional way of marketing, of looking at things, and I just chucked it out of the window. I said, none of this matters. The whole friggin' thing is rigged. Guys, it's rigged. All of it is full speed ahead, down 29,000. Get the T-shirts. Sounded like a maniac, but we're here. And now, and the other thing in 2015, people often forget, is you had Stanley Fischer, who was the real head of the Fed. You know, at the time of Bernanke, at the time of Yellen, right? Stanley Fischer was out there saying, "Yeah, we're gonna go into a negative interest rate." I remember that interview so vividly that everybody forgot. I caught it. I commented on it. I said, "Folks, this is what's going to happen." And Fisher's like, "We're going to go into negative interest rates," and people like, well, the reporter's like, "Well, why would we do such a thing?" And he said the thing so succinctly. If you think the Fed is there to improve the economy of the country, you're wrong. If you think the Fed is there to increase your purchasing power, you're wrong. If you're there thinking that the Fed is there because it's loyal to the dollar, you're wrong. The Fed does not give a rat's rear end to the dollar. It really doesn't. Because the Fed has been debasing the dollar since the Fed's inception. The Fed don't care about the dollar. The Fed knows that the dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power since 1913. It's lost 98% of its purchasing power. And here we are, CJ, we're trying to warn the American public, hey, listen, that 2% left that you have a purchasing power, you're about to lose that too. And people look at us like we're crazy. The Fed is not interested in the dollar. The Fed is only interested in one thing, and this is what Stanley Fischer said. And if you remember this, okay, you'll get it. Because the question was posed to Stanley Fischer, and they said, well, why would we go into negative interest rates, Mr. Fischer? And Stanley looked at them and said, because the markets, you idiot. Because the markets. Because we're going to do whatever we can to support the market. And that's the only thing that matters to these folks. Why? Because who are the member banks? The same member banks who are the members of the Federal, that make up the board of the Federal Reserve, is the same member banks that are making up the brunt of Wall Street. It's a revolving door. It's a revolving door. So you think they're loyal to you? You think they care about your purchasing power and parity? Do you think they care about your consumer index? No. They care about what the market's doing. And now that they got their electronic hooks into the market, their whole thing is running the market. Why? Because running the market and the central bank and the banksters and the military-industrial complex, all of these are nothing but elaborate wealth extraction schemes. That's all it is. That's all it is. Elaborate wealth extraction schemes. And then they'll give you football issues like gay marriage and abortion and taxes. Okay, they'll give you football issues so that you can kick it around between the left side and the right side while they rob, rape, and pillage you. Do you see what I'm saying? This is, I mean, they literally create crisis. They literally create crisis. The people partake in the most nefarious inventions created by these individuals who are in power. The inventions of foreign forever war. The inventions of perpetual debt. The inventions of fractional reserve banking. And people have duped themselves into thinking it's real. People have duped themselves into thinking that the market is real. That this is what reality is when there's no reality. And folks, here's the funny thing. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. We are in the most dangerous stage of civilization collapse. We're heading into one of the most dangerous stages. And that stage is this. When those that create the false narrative, CJ, we're in the stage when those that create the false narrative begin to believe themselves the false narrative that they create. In other words, the bullshitters are believing their own bullshit. And that, my friends, is the clearest clarion sign that we are towards the end of this whole entire circus. Because these fools, and I've run into some of these fools, literally think that they are somehow absolved. They are somehow exempt from economic Mother Nature. But they don't understand, CJ, that economic Mother Nature is a bitch with claws and fangs.
Yep. Well said, V. Well said, V. V, another aspect to think about of what's coming at us, not only the negative rates, but I think that municipalities, definitely certain states, even our federal government is going to try to get very creative on how they expand the tax base and the tax revenue. And, we probably don't have time for it today, but I think at some point we really need to talk about the aspect of climate change and these carbon tax credits. I mean, I think our listeners know about it in terms of what's happening, but now we're actually seeing dangerous escalations of actually actions taking place for them to try to influence society. And I'm talking about the fires in California, the fires in Australia that are occurring right now, V.
Absolutely. And right now, 200 people have been arrested for arson and charged with the fires. Look, man, if I want to bring it home to a lot of people, it's this. Look at Tesla. And this is how you know we're living in loony land. We have some of the most darling companies on Wall Street who have the highest stock valuations who make no money. CJ, can you imagine you and I starting a corporation? Let's just say we started a corporation, CJ, and we take it public. And we got some mathematical fraudster, because that's what these guys are, fraudsters, who literally come up with these stupid, overblown valuations that mean nothing at the end of the day, right?
Correct, absolutely. There's no valuations anymore. It's none. Speculation. Yep.
It's so stupid. Like, CJ, what is your company? We make 20-ply toilet paper. Oh, wow, 20-ply paper. What? Besides it being 20-ply, CJ and V, what else is your toilet paper company do? It's reusable, sustainable, 20-ply toilet paper that you can not only use as toilet paper, it also doubles as filtration for your coffee machine. Whether you want to clean it before you use your coffee machine or afterwards, it's entirely up to you. And it biodegrades easily and it's safe for septic systems. Well, that's revolutionary, V. I'm going to give your company a $200 billion stock valuation. Wow. And just like that, V and CJ's 20-ply toilet paper company has a greater valuation than ExxonMobil. There you go.
There you go.
Makes no sense. And then we launch and we have the IPO, and it's a pump and dump scheme for Wall Street, where our initial, IPO goes in for, let's just say $12, and then Wall Street pumps it to $35, and everybody's like, look at that, 20-ply Inc. is worth $500 billion. It's on its way to becoming a $1 trillion company. But it's just contributing to the bubble. Meanwhile, 20-ply can barely get a factory running in Chicago, so we had to relocate to Sheboygan. And we couldn't hire the 3,000 people to make our 20-ply. We could only hire 20. We're running at half capacity. We couldn't get the distribution deal done with Walmart. And but our Instagram account is on fleek because we have Kim Kardashian and her ginormous rear end promoting our toilet paper. And that's all that matters. And then every so often, Siege and V we all come out on our wearing snazzy suits and in these tech events. We're showing up because our new toilet paper rolls are Bluetooth capable. They can play music within the roll itself.
Yes, yeah? And there's an app. There's gonna be an app to tell you when you wiped enough. It'll beep at you on your phone. So
there you go. And then on top of that, Siege, where we start talking about future products, all vaporware, just bullshit vaporware products, folks. This might sound funny to you, but what's the difference between what I just mentioned in Tesla? What's the difference between what I just mentioned in WeWork? What's the difference between what I just mentioned and Uber and Lyft and all these other stupid companies that make no money, that burn through tens of millions of dollars, but has a high stock valuation? Why do they have a high stock valuation? Because they have a high stock valuation because they need to feed the bubble machine. The bubble's got to get bigger, baby. Why it's got to get bigger? Because even though as the bubble expands and it's getting bigger and bigger and more, there's more distortions when it comes to the asset prices. There's more distortions when it comes to mark to market, and the bubble getting bigger. Why? Because you got to get it bigger because you got to shovel more inflation into it. And this is the thing with Tesla. The vaporware. Remember the Tesla Semi, CJ, the truck that's going to revolutionize everybody. Everybody placed orders for the tractor trailer that's going to change trucking forever, right? Have you seen a single one on the road?
I have not.
It's been 3 years since he announced it. What about this? What about the Tesla roof tiles? It's been 3 years since he announced that one. Has a single one made to market? No. What about the Model Y? Nothing. Now they have the Cybertruck. Nothing. It's all vaporware, and people buy into it because at the end of the day, Tesla's main hub is a carbon trading firm masquerading as an automotive manufacturer. And V and CJ's 20-ply toilet paper is really a carbon and derivative trading firm masquerading as a toilet paper company. I mean, this is the kind of, and people think it's real. Oh, look, Jeff Bezos, he's worth $170 billion. Yeah, okay. The guy's worth $170 billion. This is not real wealth, folks. If you believe the Forbes 100 list, then you know what? There's no hope for you. It's not real wealth. And unless we start having adult conversations about what is money, what is economy, how wealth is built, then we lose it. Siege, do you realize this, Siege? It is because of the average American's lack or the average American's economic ignorance and miseducation, because he's not taught this in schools. They don't teach you economics. I have an MBA. Very good. Now you learn how to work for somebody else. You learn how to run somebody else's company. So unless we have, all these, the average American has massive economic ignorance. Because there's economic ignorance, all these things from central banking to fractional reserve lending to the military-industrial complex to the Dow being at 29,000 points, to all this chicanery exists because there is a massive disinformation. There's a massive miseducation or non-education about what is money.
Yep.
See, all the problems of society stems from one thing, folks. It ain't about what God you serve. It ain't about, if you're left or right. It ain't matter if you're Catholic or Protestant. It ain't matter if you're gay or straight. It only comes down to this. Every single thing comes down to this. What the hell is money? It comes down to how you define what money is. And this is what I say, folks. I'm the only one that's been saying it from Jump Street. People say, V, why are you so into economics? Because economics is the life driver of human civilization. The fact you have a bloody language exists because man needed to take account for the stuff he has and the stuff he transacts with. It's the most important thing. We have the problems in society, everything from the welfare state to central banking to the military-industrial complex to the deep state to all this bullshit. because we don't understand what money is. Because if we had a serious conversation about money, I think I activated Siri.
She's listening.
Shut up, Siri, you dumb Apple device. Unless we have a serious conversation about money, that's when things will start changing.
Sorry, I missed that. Could you say it again, please?
Siri, we need to have a serious conversation about money.
I'm sorry.
See, even she doesn't even know what money is, Siege. Useless. And not even she can tell you. This is what I'm saying, folks. This is what I'm saying. That's what I got to say, Siege.
Word.
Anyway, man, what do you got put up? The debt clock.
The U.S. debt clock.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah. So perfectly broken down. V. I completely agree. It's the reason why they took any type of banking or anything like that out of school altogether. But So just it's Friday, and hopefully all of our listeners have a great weekend. Continue to subscribe. Make sure you share so that we can continue to grow our audience base. And then just also, please, if you could, just say a prayer. I see all the nice comments in the chat. So yeah, just say thoughts and prayers for my sister Alma and her family. So it's gonna be a rough day for them, but I appreciate everyone taking time to listen in. So that's all I have, V.
Absolutely. With that being said, we're over and out, folks. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy yourselves. .29,000. Everybody go out there and have a drink on me. It's the one and only Notorious One and my main man El Cuco, and we are out.